Awesome. Welcome. Thanks for being here. I'm Sadie Everett, and I am the director of the Regional Autism Advisory Council, which is now a part of the University of Cincinnati, in the IDD Education Center. So I'm super excited to be offering the RAC series, RAC training series this fall. And we've been creating these series under the umbrella of mental health and well-being. And today we have Sean Bostic here with us, and I'm going to let him introduce himself here in a second and share what he is going to be presenting on. And it is very appropriate, I think, for today, because I think we all need this break in our day to take a breath and to be mindful and to have some good intentions out there. So I really appreciate the tips of staying positive, taking a walk, making a to-do list. Oh, I love lists. Taking a walk, music and walk. I love it. These are all great reminders, and it's just really, really, the timing is great today. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Sean and we'll get started.
Hello, everyone. I am Sean Bostic, Family Engagement Coordinator with Hamilton County DD Services. Really happy that everyone is here. I see some familiar faces. And this is when I saw that I was signed up for this day, November 5th, I was like, oh my goodness, this is anxiety provoking because this is election day. So I said, well, I have to make sure I come off as therapeutic as possible because people are stressed out today, rightfully so. But it's okay. We're going to make it through. So I'm going to go ahead and share my my PowerPoint presentation. I have a long title, so I don't remember it, so I have to look at it through the PowerPoint to tell you what my title is. Okay. Just bear with me here. I think I lost it. Yeah, I think I did. Okay. It went away. Just bear with me. I'll bring it up here shortly. Say that I have to bring it up. I don't know why it went away like that. So, okay.
I hope it wasn't anything I did on my end. Was it something I
No,
did?
I think when we were trying to like where I could send it to you and everything, I think it got kind
Oh,
of it's
yeah,
okay. Thank you
no
for
worries.
everyone's grace. Okay. Now here we go. I'll make sure that
Nice.
make it pretty for everyone. Okay. So as you can see, this is a really long title. How caregivers can use cognitive and dialectical behavioral therapy and mindful techniques for stress management. Um, when Sadie brought this to my attention to do a presentation, I felt like this was a great opportunity to really dive into using different therapeutic modalities to help caregivers manage overall stress because being a caregiver to a loved one with that's neurodivergent, as you people may say, or with a developmental disability, it could be quite taxing. So we're going to explore some historical facts and information, and talk about how we can be mindful and stay in a really positive place when we're dealing with this everyday stress and managing the care of our overall for our loved ones. All right, so again, we're going to highlight what is cognitive behavioral therapy, that's the agenda, dialectical behavioral therapy, and what is mindfulness, and how to use these therapeutic modalities to manage stress. So we're going to start with cognitive behavioral therapy, which particularly is one of my favorites. Is really the way that we think impacts the way that we feel, and the way we feel impacts the way that we behave. So as you can see, CBT was created in 1957 by Albert Ellis. It was the focus on modifying negative thoughts or thoughts that are quite pervasive that doesn't make you feel good. And so for instance, here, the example is I am angry and stressed out about my son being treated negatively last week, who happens to have IDD. Um, and you're really feeling upset about that situation that happened last week, legitimately so. and it's causing you to maybe not treat people around you well. You're treating people unjustly. And so I put in there, how can I counter these legitimate traumatic thoughts? Because I want people to know that because you're having negative thoughts, it may stem from a legitimate place. It may come from a real place where you actually experience a negative interaction with someone concerning your loved one or even concerning yourself. But do we want to stay there is the question. And since we do not, how can we overcome that? So what we do is you validate the fact that you're angry. I'm angry about last week, but it did happen last week, and I'm moving forward, and I don't want to focus on the past. As we always say, we move forward, you forward. That's what people say. It's the thing with my fraternity. We say we don't take any backward steps. We only move forward. And so we want to move forward and be in the present and be grateful that your loved one is safe. So that's like an example of the fact that, all right, something happened last week that I didn't care for, that caused me a lot of stress. But since that's not happening right now in the present, I don't have to live through that anymore. It's gone. I'll move past it. Um, and so, again, as I was saying earlier, thoughts create feelings, feelings create behavior, which in turn, behavior creates thoughts. So it becomes a vicious cycle. So if you find yourself having negative thoughts, and you're starting to feel bad and you're starting to act bad, and and then it creates even more negative thoughts for yourself. So I try to tell people as much as possible when you having a pervasive negative thought, and we can't control our thoughts. Thoughts coming in and out of the head. There's nothing we can do about that. But we can modify it when we see the thought. We can acknowledge it and say, you know what, this is the way I'm thinking right now, even though it's not conducive to my overall well-being. I need to modify this thought and think positively. And sometimes to change your thoughts, you do have to do something else with it, in the sense of you may have to say, well, since I'm feeling this way, let me go outside for a walk. Let me get some fresh air. Let me think about some happy things. Let me think about something that's going to make me laugh, that's going to make me feel good. So sometimes we have to do that for ourselves. So that's what the whole core of CBT is about. So when, as a caregiver, if you're dealing with any negativities concerning your loved ones, if you had a bad appointment at the hospital or someone in the public arena uh, disrespected you or your loved one, how do we handle those kinds of situations? And the best thing to do is for self-preservation, so that we can continue to be the great caregivers that we are. We want to ensure that our thinking is aligned. And that's not an easy task, but that's something that we definitely need to do for ourselves and for our loved ones. Um, so I think, yeah, wow, we got to it really quickly. So if we can do a quick 5 minute breakout session, and if you can discuss with your peers how you can use CBT as a caregiver or even as a professional while caring for your loved ones or person served that with neurodivergence, or as you can say, someone with a developmental disability, what's the best methods for that? So are we able to do that, Sadie, to go into the breakout
Yep.
sessions?
And Amanda, I'm just volunteering you. I'm going to assign you to, we're just going to do 3 breakout rooms. So there'll be like 6 or 7, 5, 6 or 7 people to each breakout room. And yeah, we'll just do a real short 5 minutes. And I got to be good about keeping an eye on the clock because I'm really bad at that, but I'll try my hardest. Yeah, so I'm going to create the rooms right now and they're just going to assign automatically. So everybody will be popped into a room.
Great. That was a great breakout session. People share. Nancy had some wonderful things to say, as she always does. And no big deal. If something is going on, use that acronym MBD, no big deal. And I love that because it helps minimize stress. You don't have to focus on, what's going on right now. Or if you are focused on it, minimalize it because it's not the end of the world. Mandy has 2 twins, and she said that's helped her really stay in the moment as well. And this is really great. It gives you perspective. So we have some great, that was some great stuff that I heard that people shared. Um, anyone else? Amanda, you happen to, why don't you share what did you guys discuss?
I was looking for the unmute button. I promised I was going to contribute. We we had a good selection. So we had one individual who's writing a memoir. So when she needs to channel her, her thoughts or just needs to get her brain somewhere else, she does that. We did talk about journaling. Some people journaling, the power of music, either listening it or playing it. It's really hard to think about intrusive thoughts when you're doing that. We had someone who uses more formal thoughts because they provide therapy to their clients. So they're basically walking the walk and talking the talk. So they use the grounding techniques and breathing techniques, and sometimes just a good cuddle with the cat seems to help. And then exercise, Zumba. And that you talk about something like you have to use all of your brain cells when you do Zumba. I just did it last week, and you have to think about everything in order not to trip or fall down or forget where you are. So it's a good one.
That is awesome. Great ideas. Sadie, you had a group.
Yeah, our group, number one, we talked about that it does take practice.
Mhm.
It takes practice to do this and to do it well, to really be helpful to yourself. Um, but then a couple of other good tips were planning ahead. So I was giving my example, like, well, what my big thing is, I wake up at 4 a.m. and I can't stop the thoughts. I start thinking and then here we are. So before you go to bed, planning what you're gonna say to those thoughts,
I like that.
like have a plan. And then also Keisha said she's trying this week is brain dumping in a journal before she goes to bed. So just trying to get all the thoughts out there. And I think the no big deal should be like the tagline for all of that too, especially at 4 a.m, you can't really do too much to solve these problems. So
No,
yeah.
that is awesome. Yeah, I think about that even for myself. Sometimes I get on the drums. I'm a drummer and I have to focus on drumming. And it really helps me to just not focus on anything else. 'Cause I'm like you, Sadie. I wake up like 4 a.m. and I'm thinking about things and I feel I might get overly anxious in the morning. I'm like, what in the world? Like, it's nothing. Like you said, it's 4 a.m. Everyone asleep. There's nothing I can do about it. It's like, what am I going to do? I can't do anything about it. It's just like, relax. And my wife, she works out every morning because it's an opportunity to get away from me and the kids. And God bless her because she needs
Sean,
that time.
I thought you were going to tell us. So since drumming's your thing,
Mhm.
at 4 a.m., you
Well,
start drumming. I
well, I don't
thought
want to
you,
wake up my children
I
and my
know,
neighbors
I know.
because I
That
wake up my
doesn't fit.
children.
That
Oh
doesn't
my
fit
God.
with your schedule.
Yes, it does not. Wow. Thank you all that shared during the breakout sessions. Well, I'm going to go ahead and go on to dialectical behavioral therapy. It's something I really, really enjoy. All right. Okay, here we go. Dialectical behavioral therapy. It's an acceptance-based treatment that was created by Dr. Marsha Linehan, 1970s, early 1980s. If you have not heard of her, please take your time and look her up. She's a phenomenal woman. And DBT was originally designed to treat persons with borderline personality disorder specifically, which borderline personality disorder historically people self-harming, suicidal ideation, manipulative behavior at times to get what they want or seeking attention. So she created a contract because DBT is a sub topic or it's a subject matter concerning CBT still, it's still related to CBT, but it's way more complex. And Marshall Linehan just did a phenomenal job creating it, and it's really centered on 4 problem solving techniques.
Hey, Sean.
And oh yeah, sure.
Sorry to interrupt, but can you reshare your screen?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. I think when we went on the breakout rooms, it stopped sharing and then stopped sharing. Yeah.
Okay, let me.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me know that. I didn't know. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, the breakout room did that, everyone. It's technology, not me. Okay.
Exactly.
Here we go. All right, and I am going to. Okay. Okay, here we go. Can everyone see this?
Yep.
Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you so much, Sadie. And so DBT consists of 4 core techniques. And those 4 basic techniques are distress tolerance, emotion regulation, interpersonal effective, and mindfulness. And what she learned later on is that DBT is not only centered on helping persons with borderline personality disorder, but it also can help people with general stress, anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, homicidal ideation. And I have an example. I'm trying to move this here. Okay. So I have an example here. I am feeling anxious because I do know that what the future holds. I do not know what the future holds. That's an error. Sorry. Do not know what the future holds for my loved one with a developmental disability. How can I counter this legitimate concern? And so I use what, and Nancy can speak to this. I can find time to attend Futurist Now and set up a plan with my SSA or my family engagement coordinator, which is me. I'm still anxious, but at least I have support and a strategy to secure my loved one's overall safety and well-being. So that example is pretty much stating that no matter what you're dealing with, you can always counter that emotion by being active and doing something about it. This next one here, distress tolerance, involves using sensory awareness of your current emotion and opposite action to lessen the intense emotion. So, for instance, radical acceptance. I remember talking about radical acceptance a lot. And what's powerful about radical acceptance is that we tend to want to change things that we can't change. And we feel powerless when we can't change something. So, what happens is you want to change something, but you're not able to do it. And what happens, you start to feel even more stressed out, more overwhelmed because you're trying to change something that you don't have any control over. And so what happens is you can be sad about a situation, but because you haven't radically accepted what's going on, that sadness then can turn into depression. So, for instance, I use an example here is finding out that your loved one has been recently diagnosed. Um, and many mothers I've spoken to in the past and fathers, the fact that they just like for the first 6 months to a year, they really could not wrap their heads around it. And it's devastating. But the thing to do, one of the best techniques to use, I won't say that it works for everyone, but is to just realize that, all right, this is something I have to deal with. This is what my child is experiencing, but I can still create a really productive and great life for my loved one. It doesn't mean because, as my buddy used to always say, and he says it to this day, sometimes you have to pivot. When something gets in the way, you're thinking like everything is going well, and then, oops, there's something that I wasn't expecting. We have to pivot, meaning that we're still going to work things out. We just have to do it in a different way. So that's what distress tolerance is. Much more to it, but I'm making it real short. Um, Same with emotion regulation, being aware of your current emotional state and challenging your thoughts with positivity. One of the main things you could do is saying positive affirmations despite feeling overwhelmed. And so, like, for instance, today, I was kind of anxious about doing this presentation. So I said, Sean Bostic, you would do a great job presenting that today's rack training. So I'm telling myself, Sean, you got this. I've been saying this to myself all day up until this point. I'm still saying it to myself. You got this, Sean. Um, interpersonal effectiveness, which was one of my favorite. How to be effective with maintaining positive relationships. So this is really important for caregivers. And the reason why I say this is because what I found is that particularly moms, because what I've noticed in my little time working in this community is that many mothers they're being pulled this way, being pulled that way. They're managing their child or loved one with a developmental disability, all at the same time being a mom to their other children, being a wife, working. And so it's really important that as a caregiver, you set clear boundaries. And it doesn't mean that you're being mean. It's just that you're setting boundaries. So if someone is okay with your yes, then they have to be okay with your no as well. And so as you see the example I use as a caregiver, you set aside for yourself, time for yourself. Um, you don't need anyone to, you don't need to compromise your time. You need to make sure that you set those clear boundaries respectfully, meaning that I need an hour for myself as a caregiver, and I'm not going to compromise that hour for anyone. That is for me. That's what's needed so that I can get the strength that I need, the internal strength that I need, so I can continue to be the great mother, wife, caregiver that I can possibly be. So that's interpersonal effectiveness. It's much more than that. You have Dear Man, you have Fast. It's so, but I will say, when you get the time, look up DBT, Dialectical Behavioral Therapy, because it's much more extensive than what I'm giving you today. I'm kind of keeping it short. Um, is it okay if I ask if anyone has any questions? I don't know if there's any questions in the chat or anything.
Well, I just wanted to add, currently I'm in the airport. I'm going on vacation and everything has been going to crap. Um, and my friend is actively having an attack, but I'm staying calm and I'm listening to this Zoom and I'm actively using the strategies that you're saying. I'm saying, you know what? It is what it is. I can't do everything and we just gonna figure it out. So I'm using these strategies as we speak.
Awesome. What going back to what Nancy Fuller said, no big deal. Any other comments or questions? Okay. So the fourth one, and I made this specific, is mindfulness. Being in the moment, staying grounded, non-judgmental, using all five senses to engage the moment. No expectations, just be. We're not focused on what happened yesterday. We're not focused on what's going to happen tomorrow because tomorrow is not even here yet. We're focused on what's happening right now. And mindfulness, I was going to do like this guided imagery with everyone, but I decided not to. I was talking to Sadie about it. And the reason why I decided against it because I want people to know that you can do mindfulness right now. Um, you can listen to me talk and just be in the mindful state. You can take time and just, when you're doing the dishes, like actually do the dishes. Like feel the water hit your hand, feel the soap, feel the dish in your hand. Like when you're doing the dishes, rather than thinking about what you have to do 5 minutes from now while doing the dishes, or what you didn't do 5 minutes earlier, be in the moment. Take the time to be in the moment. So for caregivers, I really strongly urge when they talk about self-care and looking out for oneself, be in the moment of whatever you're doing. If you're getting your nails done as a mom, or you're getting your hair styled, or if you're getting a massage, whatever that looks like for you. If you're eating a nice slice of cheesecake from the Cheesecake Factory, like take the time and eat it and really enjoy the flavors. I really urge that. So self-care isn't just about, removing yourself from a situation and having to go into a closet or a room and do this kind of stuff in meditation. No, it could be at any moment, at any time. And I really urge people strongly, even when you're driving, take the time to be in the moment when you're driving. There's been times where I've driven places and I'm like, oh, wow, I got here so fast. Well, it's because I was thinking about a million things while I was going to my destination. So rather than doing that, like really take the time to, I just found out this last week that drivers are so distracted now that it's just as bad as the 80s when drunk driving was like at its highest point. That's where people are right now when it comes to how distracted they are on the road when they're driving. Actually, to be honest with you, quick disclose something. I almost got into a really bad wreck last week. Not on me, because I'm a responsible driver, but the gentleman was on his cell phone and he just wasn't paying attention, and it was going to be really ugly. But thank God, everything worked out. But going back to what I was saying, take time to be in the moment in all that you do as much as possible. Um, I was talking to Nancy when we was in a breakout session, and I was watching TED Talks, and the gentleman reported, statistically speaking, that we spend 47% of our time not being in the moment, not being mindful of what's going on around us. I actually have that link um, in my references in this PowerPoint. So when I send this out or Sadie sends this out, you can take a look at that. But mindfulness is really important. And the non-judgmental piece, I put that in there because what I hear from a lot of caregivers is that when they're doing something for themselves, they sometimes feel guilty that they're not taking that time with their loved one. And it's okay. You have to look out for yourself. You have to be engaged with self. You have to sometimes say, let me look out for me, no judgment. This is what I need so I can go back to being the great mother that I am, the great caregiver I am, the great wife that I am, the great worker that I am, the great entrepreneur that I am. You have to find that time for self. All right. So, another aspect of mindfulness is being in the rational mind, emotional mind. So, as you can see with the rational mind, decisions are based on intellectual, logical. Uh, you compare current experiences with past ones. You suppress and ignore emotions. In an emotional mind, emotions, your thoughts are and decisions are based on how you feel, and how we feel can go up and down. You're angry and you send a, how people say when you're upset, don't send an email when you're upset. Take the time to relax. Don't send that out. Um, it's just all emotional. It's reactive. It's defensive. It's not balanced. Where the wise mind, or people will say, you can come up with your own mind. Like I've heard one gentleman said he used his name. It's my Jefferson mind versus my wise mind, or it's my dad's mind because he respected his father. It's a striking balance. It's a way to live mindfully and being aware of your emotions and your logical at the same time, and being able to fuse the two together without judgment. So I really urge families and caregivers to really take the time to operate in the wise mind as much as possible, especially when it comes to yourself and your well-being, so that you can be the great person that you need to be for others. That's what's really important at the end of the day, making sure that you're good and you're comfortable so that someone else can be good and they can be comfortable. Um, I can't see anyone because I had to like block everything out so I can only see the PowerPoint. So if anyone has like anything in the chat or any questions so far.
Nothing in the chat, no questions.
All
Just
right.
some comments. You got this, Sean. You're doing awesome, Sean.
Oh, thank you. Oh,
Good
look at that. Positive
topic.
affirmations. I need to hear that. Thank you.
Some comments
So,
about the driving, crazy driving. Heather City, wherever you live in Ohio, is the worst city of driving in the state of Ohio, according to crash rates.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. This, and I don't mean to digress. What happened while I was driving last week, the guy cut me off so bad that I merged into the other lane and there was a police officer coming my way.
Oh my gosh.
And so I pulled over. Thank God that we didn't crash, but the police officer got out the car. I got out the car. And I said, "Did you see that officer?" He said, "Yeah, he cut you off. He almost ran into me." I said, "I know. Thank God that we're okay." He said, "I know. We could both go back home to our families." So yeah, yeah, it's really bad out here. Um, I want to give another example about, being in the wise mind. As you can see, I was trying to be a little creative here with the emotion being like a red. That's kind of like a red color, I'll say, kind of orange red. And the logic being blue, kind of neutral. But then the wise mind being purple. And this is nothing political oriented. I just happen to just think of this. Maybe it is subconsciously, who knows? Um, but I'm a caregiver and I need me time. Where your emotions to say, I need me time, but if I leave my son or my loved one, um, you know, I might be a bad mother. That would make me a bad mom. These are things I'm using examples I've actually heard before. Or a logical parent will say, I need me time. My loved one will be fine. My daughter or his sister will take care of him without me. He'll be okay. But the wise mind will say, yes, I do need me time. I am going to acknowledge the emotion that I'm going to miss my son. It's perfectly fine. But it's important that I look after myself so I can be mentally well for both of us. And you know that your child or your loved one is going to get the care that they need, and you're going to call to make sure that he's good and to also let him know that you're fine. So that's the wise mind, meaning that you're being logical, but you're acknowledging your emotions all at the same time. Because I want to make this very clear: emotions aren't bad, and I know emotions get a bad rep. Um, it's okay to be angry about something, just as long as you don't stay angry. And I don't want to get preachy here, but I like how the scripture says, "Be angry, but sin not," meaning that anger is justified, being sad is justified, being emotional in general can be justified. We just want to be cautious in the sense of not making decisions in those emotional states, because that could be devastating, not to just ourselves, but to those around us. So that's why I really say operating in the wise mind is really, really important, and it's conducive to our overall well-being. All right, go to the next slide here. All right, another breakout. Discuss with your peers how you can use mindfulness to relieve stress while managing your loved one's care. And as you can see here with the emotional mind, the rational mind, how it all blends to make the wise mind. So, Sadie, it's on you now.
Okay. I'm opening the rooms.
You brought up some great points in there. That was awesome. Okay.
Yeah, we all really like the concept of the wise mind.
Really? That
Really
resonated, huh?
resonated with our group. And Madeline shared, well, I first shared that I've been working on it a long time, but I have definitely been known to be a hothead, can go from 0 to 100 pretty quickly. And then I just spend, the next week apologizing for my reaction. And Madeline kind of shared the similar tendencies. And she also shared that, to be able to access the wise mind, that's where that mindfulness comes in, where you take a break, you get the buffer, you have to create a buffer so that you can access that part of your brain, so that you can be rational and understand the emotional context and then be effective. But it's that access where the mindfulness really comes in.
Absolutely. That's
It's
great.
cool.
Love
Yeah.
hearing that. Anyone else? Is it
And
Amanda?
Amanda, I'm
There she
ready.
is.
It was anything from, we talked about removing yourself from the situation for a period of time so that you can access that wise mind. So if you need to take a break, even if just for 30 seconds, doing that. Breath was a theme, I feel like. One was talking about her son being able to take deep breaths and filling his chest so that he could be prepared for something that was stressful to him. Talking about counting to 5 before reacting if it was a reactive situation, just 5 seconds to again get in touch with that the wise mind, and then using I feel statements to put things into context, put the emotional side into context with the logic context.
That's
This is
right.
how I feel. This is what I'm going to do. So
That's right. That's right. I really highlight not neglecting the emotion because the emotions are legit. And sometimes people reject the emotion altogether as if it doesn't have any legitimacy. And it does. That's that logical mind where it's like, I'm not going to be emotional about it. Well, it's okay to have that emotion. I like we did our breakout session how Jesse reported how you should have a spectrum of things to do for yourself when it comes to self-care. And because say for instance, if one of those if it becomes missing for some odd reason, something happens in life that alters that, at least you have other things that you could depend on within yourself or externally. So I thought that was a great point she brought up. All right. All right, we did that already. Okay, we're at questions now. Any questions for me? I'm going to make it kind of large so I can see everyone. I can't see anyone right now. Oops, sorry. Well, everyone gets what I mean by questions. Any questions for me? From anybody? Any discussion?
Sean,
Hmm.
Amanda, and you're like, great, Amanda's going to ask me a
I
question
love you, Amanda. Go. You got it.
as in just a couple minutes. I work with a lot of families that have a hard time um celebrating the successes that are happening because the burden or the fear of having someone who's dependent on them outweighs those successes. So is that something that you can speak to in terms of, using these strategies to help with that perspective? Like one of the things we didn't talk about is just like focusing on strengths, focusing on positives, in our breakouts. But anyway, if you could speak to that a little bit, just helping professionals and parents to make sure that they're not getting weighed down by the deficits and by the needs and by the fears.
Well, I will say that when it comes to the deficits, I think as professionals, particularly, I think that we can be really pathologically based, meaning that we're only highlighting the needs, the wants, the concerns, the crisis. I think that we need to sometimes balance that out with focusing on the positive things, the positive attributes, what we respect and love about our loved ones. So even though we're an agency, like I talked about Hamilton County DD, even though we're an agency and we're here to support people, and we do focus on the needs and the wants, but we also need to focus on just the person, the human. What is it about them? And that's one thing that we do in Futurists now is, and Nancy could speak to that, is that we highlight who is the person, not what they need all the time or what the wants are. So when we think about our loved ones, even though you're overwhelmed and you're stressed out about what they need, what you can get from them, and what you need to get for them, and this and that, it's still good to take the time to be like, I just love my child, or I just love my loved one because they have this going on for themselves. I love their red hair. I love their freckles. I love how they laugh. Just highlighting those things can bring forth balance so that you're just not overwhelmed with just the need and the wants. I think by my own children, like how I'm bald for a reason, and I'm like, they really get on my nerves. But then I think about, the positive things that I really enjoy about them, and the way that they talk or the way they do things and the way they say things. And I just take that all in the moment, being mindful of the fact that I just enjoy being a dad and I enjoy my children. So, when I think about my wife and how she thinks about me, I hope that she takes the time to think about those positive things about what she loves about her husband, because I'm sure I get on her nerves. I know I do. So pray for her. She needs a lot of prayer. Keep praying your prayers, everyone, please. Um, but I hope I answered that question well, Amanda, in the sense of I think we're all guilty of that, just really focusing on the issues and the needs and the wants when we just need to just focus on the whole person.
In our team meetings at work, we I shouldn't say always, but we mostly all the time, a lot of times, start with celebrations. So, I mean, that could be a little tool to use, when you're meeting with your clients or your students, that kind of thing is, what can we celebrate today before we get started in this meeting, and it's mindful. It's a mindfulness activity.
Yes.
Also, Nancy put this really cool chart in the chat of strategies for nourishing hope. I love that. Self-care strategies for nourishing hope. Love that. I love the color coding. I love it all. Really cool.
I didn't get it. I didn't see it, but she's going to send it to my email. So
I was gonna say, I can't see it either.
I sent it to Sean
Oh.
on his email, but what I was saying to our small group was that there's so many, this chart from nature to all different types of ways we could potentially take care of ourselves. And maybe 70% of them won't relate to you. But if you circled the ones that do relate to you, and then you go after maybe even one a day or one a week, then you have all these different types of ways that you're doing something to nurture yourself in this journey called life that can be pretty complicated at times.
Yeah, I love that. I can share that visual with, I just put in the chat that I'll be emailing you all the PowerPoint, the recording, and also the survey link that I also just put in the chat, just to give us feedback as to how we did today and what we could improve on, and all that good stuff. So please take a couple minutes to fill that out. And I will also include that visual, if that's okay with you, Nancy. I love that. And yeah, thank you all. This was so great. We're right at 4:30. Sean, I really appreciate your time.
thank you.
That was much needed on a day like today. So everybody, please enjoy the rest of your day. And we have our next training coming up on the 22nd. So you'll be getting communication about that as well. So thank you all.
Thank you.